Hi.
Looking ahead to Spurs, any kind of new injury news or how's the squad looking?
No, yeah, squad's good. Nathan Fraser missed last weekend with a sore quad and sort of re-aggravated it a little bit in his rehab, so he'll miss the weekend. Hugo Bueno's back, so he'll be involved tomorrow. Just trying to think if there's anyone else. I think everyone else should be okay. Obviously, Pedro's still missing. And the rest of the group seems to be in a good place.
And just on Pedro, do you hope he'll be back for the Fulham game after the international break?
Yeah, I hope. There's a lot to do between now and then. So I hope he'll be back. But there's still over 2 weeks away, 2.5 weeks. So there's a lot of things that he'll need to tick off before he's available to play again. Yeah.
For sure. And before we look ahead to the Spurs game, again, VAR has been in the news this week. I know you mentioned this week you spoke to Howard Webb last weekend. Just wonder how that chat went. And you also mentioned that you believe things are going to shift the right way, or they're trying to shift things in the right direction. So what does that kind of mean and look like, do you think?
Yeah, no, I had a good conversation with Howard off the back of last weekend, and a private conversation that I don't want to go into too much, but just a good honest chat around what we both think of where things are and our opinions on it, and an understanding on my part that Howard is responsible for trying to shift the standard and make things better, and he's working extremely hard to do that. So just a good chat really around trying to improve the standards, as I think everyone's aware. At the moment, it's been a tricky spell for refereeing decisions and VAR. So no real secrets to reveal from it. Just a good chat around hopefully trying to improve things.
And Jamie Carragher said this morning that his view is maybe VAR should be limited to goal line technology and just offsides. Do you see that as a potential solution going forward in terms of how it's implemented?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've given some of my ideas to Howard, whether he wanted them or takes them or not. It's not really my job or my role, but I gave him my thoughts on it. And I'm keen not to speak about it too much more. I know it's easy for us in this room to just sit and talk about VAR for half an hour. And then after games, the first question always seems to be about VAR. So keen, because my focus honestly is on us. And I think maybe when I'm asked questions around VAR, it leads people to believe that I'm focused on VAR, and I'm not. I think I'm going to leave that. I spoke to Howard. Obviously, the review came back from last weekend's decision that 5-0 in favour of a penalty not being given on field, and 5-0 in favour of VAR should have overturned. So obviously that they've recognised that last week's decision was incorrect. Hopefully they can recognise the next one before the Tuesday review and recognise it in the live situation. But we are where we are. We've had a few go against us, but as I've said many times, we need to be better, and my only focus is on making us better. Could we have been better in those situations that lead to the penalty decisions? Could we have been better in the games so that they don't have such an impact on the result?
Without revealing too much from the conversation, could you share any ideas you did put forward to Howard in terms of how you see it moving forward?
Yeah, no, I've, and since last season, I said to Howard, I think the clear and obvious thing actually makes it harder for VAR. I just think it would be easier if the guy in the office or wherever he is in the hub can just say we don't think that's a penalty. You should either look or we're just going to overrule it. I think they would get more right if you just let the guy who had the slow motions and the replays and the not being in the stadium just to be able to say, yeah, in our opinion, that's not a penalty. I don't think it should need to be a clear and obvious error for us to get to the right conclusion. I think that's probably why we've ended up suffering the last two penalty decisions, is because we don't think that's a penalty, but we also don't think it's clear and obvious, so we'll just leave it where it is, which I think is not the right solution. So I think if there'll be other things, I'm sure Howard will have his own thoughts on it, and they'll be working on stuff to sort of correct the situation at the moment. But I think the clear and obvious makes it harder for the VAR officials.
looking ahead to the Spurs game, talking about the football. When you were on M&F a few weeks ago, you did a really lovely piece with Jamie around how they build up from the back with their defenders and keeper. Of course, they have a few injuries and suspensions now going into that game. So how do you think that will impact how they build up, I suppose?
Yeah, I don't think they'll change. Obviously, hard to know, and hard to know who will be missing and who won't. They had a tough game on Monday night, obviously with some suspensions and some players going off with injuries. So we won't be sure who's available to them until the team sheet comes in. But from everything I've seen and read and heard about, Ange Postecoglou is that he doesn't change very often. So I would expect it to be, and especially with the form they've been in and how well they've played, and even how well they performed the other night with 10 and 9 men, I would expect them to just come and play whoever he has available and play in their way. So I wouldn't expect too many tactical changes from them.
And just final one from you, that Chelsea game that they did play on M&F, I mean, what did you think of their tactics in the second half? To play such a high line on the halfway line with 9 men.
I thought they got some big success from it. You always thought that Chelsea might manage to find a moment, but it proved difficult for Chelsea. Even against 9 men for a long period of time, High Line managed to catch Chelsea offside numerous times. So it's something that they work hard on. I know obviously Matt Wells is there and does a lot of work with the back line, who I worked with at Bournemouth for a while. So I know Matt well, and I know some of the stuff that they work on. I know how detailed they are at it and how hard they work at it. So no surprise to me that they're very well drilled in it and that they've been very successful so far this season.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. On your opposition this weekend, he's Frank. He's fourth, right? He seems to be the darling of the Premier League at the moment. I mean, are you an Ange fan?
I think I find a lot of the Premier League managers interesting. I think he has a refreshing views on things. He brings a real good energy. I think that the most important thing is he's doing an incredible job. So big fan of how Spurs have played and how successful they've been this season, and how big a change it is to what Spurs have looked like for the last few years, sort of style-wise. To manage to implement that and be successful so quickly is a real big achievement. And obviously they've got a few injury issues at this moment and suspensions, but I see no reason that their form and their performances won't continue to stay as good as they have been throughout the season. I think he's doing a really good job.
As Dan mentioned on Monday night, going down to 9 men, it's still attack. I mean, as far as poker faces go, he doesn't seem to have one. Does that make it easier to plan against?
No, I think they're very fluid within their structure. So I think they are a difficult team to stop without the ball. I think they've shown that already, that they cause a lot of teams problems because of their movement and obviously the quality of the players they have. So no, it's obviously not an easy game to prep for. It's a team that have been top of the league for a large part of this season so far, and they're in really good form with top players and an excellent manager. So of course I have an idea of how they do things and why and what they're trying to get from it, the same as most weeks. But I think tomorrow will be a tough test for myself, the staff, and the group. So one that we're looking forward to. Home form. We've had some tough fixtures and we've managed to be very competitive in most of them, even the tough ones. So tomorrow will be the same, and I'm expecting the same from us.
Whilst you've got different personnel at the two clubs, but did you find yourself in a similar position, do you think, as managers? I mean, admittedly, neither of you were first choices, were you? And you had very little time to impact on the group before the first game. So do you think you had a similar start to the season?
I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if I was first choice. I'd like to think I was first choice, but if you're telling me I'm not, I'll take your word for it. I
can only go on what...
That's the first I've heard of it, so it caught me by surprise, that one. But maybe I wasn't first choice, but no, I think Ange was obviously in for pre-season. I think he was done fairly early in the summer, so he had a little bit more time with the group, and a pre-season spell with a group can be extremely beneficial, whereas mine was a little bit more of a surprise because Wolves sort of had a settled manager and it came around late. So No, I think fairly different situations. Obviously, we're both new to our clubs, but it's fairly different situations.
Cheers.
All right. Okay.
Hello, Gary.
Hi.
Nelson Semedo gave a very mature interview after the game last week, and said his piece on behalf of the players. How are you going to harness that energy from last week rather than it spilling over into sort of grievance in future? You can understand why the players felt aggrieved. You need that energy more positively.
Yeah, I understand the players feel aggrieved because we've probably had 4 decisions that we think have gone against us that shouldn't have, which is a lot in 11 games. So that's a lot. But I think it's important that we understand that you can be unlucky in football matches and in spells of seasons, and that's all it is. We've been unfortunate with a few decisions, but we can't control that. Like, bad luck is part of the game, is part of the Premier League, is part of every league. So we can't affect it, so let's not waste any energy on it. You know, we've discussed it briefly this week around our reaction to it and what it needs to look like for us. And the message from me and from the group that we're all on board with is that let's be better. Let's be better. You know, I can say my piece on what I think of VAR. It won't affect anything. It won't change anything. It's my job is to make sure the group are ready to go, and the players' job is to make sure that they perform. So we're all fully focused on that.
Obviously, it wasn't quite the performance as well you were looking for at Sheffield, as you said yourself, especially in the second half. It was the first time you played without Pedro, but I imagine from your point of view there's more to it than just not having Pedro.
I really liked his first half. I thought we should have been 2 or 3 in front, created a lot of chances, and then second half it just got really messy and we didn't manage to stamp our authority. I didn't ever feel like we were in threat. I think the first goal they score is from a long way out, and sort of numbers wise not expected to go in very often from there, and then the penalty isn't a penalty, so that there's no way we should have lost that game. But to lose the control that we had, to not have taken our chances when we were on top and when we were, because Sheffield United with a back 5 to create as many chances as we did first half was a good performance and limited them to absolutely 0. I don't remember Sarr doing a thing. So should have managed to stamp our authority more in that half and gone in 2-0, 3-0 up. And then second half, we should have just found a way to get our control back, and we didn't, and we were punished for it. So can happen in the Premier League. It's sort of part of the process, and but not something that we want to see too often. We want to make sure we maximise when we're on top. We need to be clinical. When it starts to get sticky or not as good for us, we need to find a way to still come through the half and unscathed and make sure we leave with at least a point.
Switch the cameras off for this written section while I go for the 10 debate.